This video is basically going to be the Muslim ban and the do's and the don'ts. But first, who the hell is Stephen Miller? And how is he the one making the decisions on what's going on in our government? This guy has never been elected to a dog catcher, and he has no experience in any type of governance or even lawmaking. So how did Mr. Miller get to be one of the principal advisors of President Trump? Well, first and foremost, in case you didn't know it, that inaugural speech that you heard President Trump give, well, this is the guy that wrote it. It was basically propaganda by Mr. Trump when he indicated, or it was indicated by his lackeys, that he was the one writing the speech. It was written by this guy. Okay, that's not all that unusual, as a lot of presidents have had their speech writing outsourced to various other individuals. But what's troubling is the political ilk of this particular person. This guy is a partner in crime with Steve Bannon. They're both people that are alt-right, i.e. white supremacists and racists. Now, in case you think that I'm barking up a bad tree, let me give you a little background on Mr. Miller. Miller started his basic career, we'll call it, as an supporter of the National Rifle Association. He's been inspired by Mr. Wayne LaPierre's book, Guns, Crime, and Freedom, and also in part by the terrorist attacks of 9/11. Now, you wouldn't know it just by looking at this guy, because how could you? This guy is Jewish, and he was basically raised in a Democratic household. But because of his acceptance of the NRA's Wayne LaPierre and his belief that we should have gone crazy on whomever was involved in the terrorist attacks, which there are a lot of people that accept that one particular philosophy. It just served to reason that this guy was going to jump out of the mainstream and was ripe for the pickings of white supremacists. Mr. Miller, being young and aggressive, saw leftist, peacenik, multicultural conspiracies everywhere he went. He rallied against his own school's Spanish language announcements, claiming that such concessions only served to hold Hispanics back, while Latino students recall Miller telling them dismissively that they would do better to work on their English language skills rather than spend their time forming clubs based on ethnicity. A bunch of people at that point started calling him racist. Miller, in college, went on to complain in a column titled "Political Correctness Out of Control" about the availability of condoms in the Santa Monica School District and on the Santa Monica High School campus. He took issue with the administration's acceptance of gays and lesbians, later writing that just in case your son or daughter decides at their tender age that they are gay, we have a club that will gladly help foster their homosexuality. He griped about his fellow students weren't being required to recite the Pledge of Allegiance. I think that got taken out a long time ago. Or to learn how heroic their predecessors were. Maybe American soldiers shouldn't have killed Indians, Miller asked sarcastically. Or better yet, he continued, we could have lived with the Indians, learning how to finger paint and make teepees, excusing their scalping of frontiersmen as part of their culture. Yeah, I wonder where that came from. And just in case you didn't know it, the scalping piece, that was not started by Native Americans. The scalping was actually started by the white settlers. For many people, the things Miller would say and do were offensive heresies. Ari Rosemarin, former editor of the high school newspaper and now a New York attorney for the American Civil Liberties Union, told the Los Angeles Times that Miller loved playing that role, loved drawing people's outraged. He loved the performance. He would take the opposing position and almost shock people, said one acquaintance. He would sort of chuckle and enjoy that. Miller also realized early on that Santa Monica High School was too small a stage for him. So as Politico's Julie Eiffel has pointed out, Miller didn't just invite button-pushing Southern California arch-conservative David Horowitz to speak on campus. He immediately claimed that the administration had denied his request, then documented the injustice in Horowitz's publication, Front Page Magazine. While still a teenager, Miller reached out to conservative talk radio personality Larry Elder, oh my God, becoming a regular guest on Elder's show and inspiring listeners from around the country to call the Santa Monica High School switchboard to complain about liberal bias run amok. Shortly after graduation, Miller published a column titled, How I Changed My Left-Wing High School. Miller, 17 years old at the time, had just graduated from Santa Monica High School, read his bio at the bottom lines. Since his junior year in high school, he has been a guest on local and national radio over 30 times. Miller continued to provoke and promote his provocations at Duke University. Oh man, and I love Duke. This guy. Okay, his microphone was a bi-weekly column in the Duke newspaper called Miller Time, which Miller used as a way to court angry reaction and put himself at the center of major campus controversies. He wrote that interacting with the population outside the campus was overrated. Durham isn't a petting zoo, he chided. The residents won't get lonely or irritable if we don't play with them. He was a strong supporter of the war in Iraq and called Ted Kennedy a traitor for criticizing American use of torture. He went after professors for being registered Democrats. He blamed 9/11 on politically correct domestic security and unenforced immigration laws. He wrote that about black students, racial paranoia, and their mistaken understanding of where true racism resides. Yeah, and I guess we know where it resides, right with him. The problem is not rich conservative white people, he wrote. It's Democrats who continue to fuel the destructive vision of a powerful racist white oppressor from which they need to protect black voters in order to keep their lock on that vote. He wrote that worshiping at the altar of multiculturalism undermines American culture and ignores the fact we have shared with the world the cultural values of individualism and liberty, a value rooted in our unique and glorious history of settlers, pioneers, and frontiersmen. Although he identified himself as a practicing Jew, he lamented the war on Christmas, saying, "You probably find more Christmas decorations at your local mosque than anywhere else." Maya Angelou, in Miller's mind, was a leftist full of racial paranoia who shouldn't be allowed to give the opening address at the start of the school year. In a column called Sorry Feminist, he wrote that the gender pay gap was actually because of women working fewer hours and choosing lower paying professions. Women already have equal rights in this country, he wrote. Sorry, feminists, hate to break this good news to you. It's not chauvinism, he signed off, it's chivalry. Man. Miller very much knew the impact of his work, and he planned and plotted, a fellow Duke Chronicle alumni told Politico. He was very businesslike about it. It smacked of architecture, like he intentionally provoked people, and it worked for him because he was making a name for himself. According to Richard Spencer, the white nationalist alt-right founder, he and Miller met each other and clicked as members the Duke Conservative Union, DCU. In October, Spencer told Mother Jones that Miller helped him with fundraising and promotion for an on-campus debate on immigration policy that Spencer organized in 2007, featuring influential white nationalist Peter Brimlow. Another former member of the DCU confirmed to Mother Jones that Miller and Spencer worked together on the event. At meetings of the Conservative Union, Miller denounced multiculturalism and expressed concerns that immigrants from non-European countries were not assimilating, a former DCU president told the magazine. It's funny, no one picked up on the Stephen Miller connection, Spencer said. I knew him very well when I was at Duke, but I'm kind of glad no one talked about this because I don't want to harm Trump. I have absolutely no relationship with Mr. Spencer, Miller wrote in an email to Mother Jones. I completely repudiate his views, and his claims are 100% false. It's kind of funny that he's repudiating this guy, but he's espousing the same things that Spencer is espousing. So how can you completely repudiate his views if his views are the same views that you hold? Sleight of hand again. Watch the shiny object and don't pay attention to what I have in the other hand. On appearing on the O'Reilly Factor, and on Nancy Grace to defend the white Duke lacrosse players who were falsely accused in 2006 of raping a black stripper, he wrote, being a white male lacrosse player was all it took, he wrote at the time. Miller went on to Washington. He first worked as a press secretary for Republican Representative Michelle Bachmann and John Shadegg before landing with Alabama Senator Jeff Sessions in 2009. Horowitz recommended Miller for the job. Miller soon became Sessions' right-hand man, providing, as Tucker Carlson told Politico, the intellectual architecture for a nationalist insurgency against the Republican Party. While I was in Sessions' office, this movement for state-nation populism, the intellectual framework for that was being formed, Miller explained in the same story, noting that he fought to kill the Gang of Eight immigration bill in 2013. A big part of my day was being in touch with the people who were the key players in that. We saw ourselves as a kind of think tank for immigration issues and linking that to the larger questions of globalism and populism. Always the media-savvy operator, Miller developed a symbiotic relationship with Bannon's Breitbart, the platform for the white supremacists, as Bannon himself once put it. Well, he said alt-right, I said white supremacists. Miller fed the site scoops. The site promoted Miller's media appearances. Stephen Miller is a jewel, Bannon said in June before signing on with Trump. We try to get as many of his TV things as we can. Some of them have been epic. On the Trump campaign, Miller transferred his talents to the stump, often serving as the candidate's warm-up act. Everyone who stands against Donald Trump are the people who have been running the country into the ground, who have been controlling the levers of power, Miller would shout. They're the people who are responsible for our open borders, our shrinking middle class, for our terrible trade deals. Everything that is wrong with this country today, the people who are opposed to Donald Trump are responsible for. No other speechwriter has ever taken on such a role of rallies. It was yet another example of how much influence someone can amass in Trump world if the boss decides he likes you. Now that Bannon and Miller are ensconced in the West Wing, Trump lovingly refers to them as my two Steves. Their influence seems limitless. For instance, Bannon and Miller not only revised Trump's controversial travel ban, For instance, Bannon and Miller not only devised Trump's controversial travel ban, Miller in particular spent Saturday directing how it would be implemented, overruling Homeland Security officials and insisting, according to reports, that green card holders would also be barred from entering the country unless granted waivers on a case-by-case basis. On the same day, Miller effectively ran the National Security Council Principals Meeting, an unprecedented move. In terms of policy, Miller, who knows his way around Capitol Hill and remains close to Sessions, Trump's Attorney General nominee, is probably even better positioned than Bannon to steer Trump in his desired direction, even though he's a less familiar boogeyman among liberals. You could not get where we are today with this movement if it didn't have a center of gravity that was intellectually coherent, Bannon himself said in June. Stephen Miller was at the cutting edge of that. Oh my God. And all this time we thought it was just Bannon, and this guy. And for Sean Spicer to make an announcement about transparency in bringing Steve Bannon on as a permanent member of the National Security Council, and then not mentioning that this particular turd actually ran one of the National Security Council principals meetings. Yeah, that's really transparent. Totally transparent. You know, I'm going to retitle this, Who the Hell is Stephen Miller? And then I'll make a separate video on the do's and the don'ts of a Muslim band.